In Cannibal World, you are in a horrible, horrific future where everybody is beating up everybody. Well, pretty much. I mean, you have factions. You have dogs, you have cats, you have rats, and you have rejects. One of these 4 factions will be your home faction, and you are trying to take the other ones out. Now, in this video, I'm going to show you how to set up this quite cool game and how to play it. So, let's just look at this. So first, you need to choose a faction. And you can see your faction symbol in the center of the card. In this case here, the rats. Next, you need to take that faction's habitat. Again, you can see who belongs to who by simply looking at these symbols. Each of these habitats need to have 3 meat counters on them. These meat counters are double-sided and it's pretty much the HP of your habitat. And you take your main deck and you put it face down on the table. Next to the deck you have your habitat card with the meat counters on. Now you need to choose one card from your main deck to put in your reinforcement deck. If you're a new player and you don't know which card to choose, there is a little guide in the rulebook. Lastly, we have 4 meat counters. These are pretty much to keep track on your actions during gameplay. We also place a little reserve of meat and damage counter next to the play area. And that was the setup of the game. It goes quite fast. Now, out in the play area, we have some different zones. First, we have the habitat zone. This is where our habitat is. Quite logic, right? The next step is the cover zone. Now, this is where your little, well, whatever they are, rats or rejects or whatever, are out in the battlefield, but they are still in cover. They're not in the front line. The next step is the hunting zone. And here, my friend, they are very much in the front line, because this is where the battle between the different factions will happen. The game itself is played out during 3 different phases. First you have the draw phase. Now, during the draw phase, you simply draw a card up to your hand. And you can choose to draw either from your main deck, meaning this big pile here, or from your reinforcements deck. If you want to draw from your reinforcements deck, you actually get to take them up, look at them, and pick one that you want to take up to your hand. If it's ever empty, you simply take the top card from your main deck and then you refill your reinforcement deck. And you can actually look at these reinforcement cards anytime during the game. If you ever have fewer than 3 cards on your hand, you simply keep on drawing until you have 3 cards on your hand. Whenever a player attempts to draw a card either from their main deck or from their reinforcement deck, but there are no cards to draw, well, then you are considered to be exhausted. And from that moment and for the rest of the games, you cannot add any cards to your reinforcement deck. And all of your actions must be spent by playing cards from your hand, unless you manage to ransack your opponent's habitat. Because once your opponent's habitat is ransacked, you may pass the turn or continue to play more actions if you wish. Now, the second phase of this game is the action phase, and this is here where we will actually do all the actions out in the battlefield itself. But before we look at the actions, let's take a look at the cards and what they mean. So this here could be one of your creatures. At the top we see a cool little artwork. Isn't this cool? Kind of remind me of the 90s artworks. Well, never mind. In the center you have the faction of this card. Here you have a little symbol that some of the creatures have. And this is a rank symbol. Some of them will have a silver star, like in this case here, meaning that this is a champion card. And some of them will have a gold star, well then it will be a leader creature. Now these cards are a little bit better than the rest of the cards in the deck. Plus the leader with the gold star can be played for free. Beneath that you have the combat strength, but also the life points of this creature. Here you have 2 ability symbols. Now some of these creatures do not have abilities or only have 1, but some of them, like this one here, has 2. And up here you can see the value of this card. While in the bottom you can see the cool artists that have made and illustrated this card. Some of the cards are pure action cards. These are the cards that does not have any life points. They are simply played for their ability and then they are discarded. And now we come into the action phase itself. Now, your actions can be made in any order, except from the ransack action, because that can only be made once per turn. Now, the rest of the actions can actually be made multiple times if you want to. And you can do as many actions as you have these little meat counters here, because they are your actions, remember? So once you do not have any meat counters left next to your habitat, well, you can't do any more actions. It's as simple as that. But what actions are there and how do they work? The first action you can choose is to play a creature, either in your cover zone or in the hunting zone. To play a creature, you need to pay one of these meat tokens. But if it would have been a leader creature, it would have been free, remember? And you can choose to activate any ability on a creature out on the playing area that you would like to. These two down here, for example. Now you can activate one or both of them. If you want to activate an ability, you simply take this meat counter and you put it on the ability. And then you execute that ability right away. And if you would like to do both abilities, well then you would of course need to pay for both abilities. Some of these abilities will specify a target creature or this creature. Now, this must be chosen when the ability is activated. If any of the abilities has a range, you may also choose the zone from where it is launched, provided that it is valid for that ability. Because if you don't have a target available, well, then of course you can't use the ability. When a creature dies, it is put into the discard pile. Another action is to spend one meat token to move your creature one step from the cover zone to the hunting zone. Just be aware, because you cannot move the creature back into the cover zone. This is a one-way direction, my friend. You could also play one meat token to ransack your opponent's habitat. But to be able to do this, either the player needs to have 0 creatures in their zones, or all of their creatures needs to be stunned, meaning that they are placed side down and actually cannot act during this turn. If all of this is correct, you can choose to ransack your opponent's habitat. This means that you simply remove one meat token from their habitat and you lower their life points. Now, you can only do this once per turn, and whoever is the first player cannot do this on the first turn. And if you have any stunned creatures out on the battlefield, you can play one meat token to get them back into action and straighten that card up. And you can pay one token to draw a new card, either from the main deck or from your reinforcements deck. And again, if you choose to draw from the reinforcement deck, well then you can look it through and pick one. And then you can of course initiate combat if you have a creature in your hunting zone. Because you need to have a creature in your hunting zone to be able to hunt your opponent. And if they don't have a creature in their hunting zone, well, you can still attack them, because you can actually attack their creatures in their cover zone as well. Now, when you initiate combat, you go through some different steps to see who actually came out victorious during this combat. So the first thing we need to do during combat is to, well, declare combat and choose one of our creatures that are going into this combat. And then we need to choose a target. Now again, if there is no targets in the hunting zone, you can attack creatures in the cover zone. And you can actually attack creatures even if they are stunned, which is a perfect thing because they can't do anything back. Now, once you have chosen a creature that you would like to attack, the opponent will have a chance to dodge, because they can play 2 meat counters to be able to avoid this combat. If they dodge, the combat will not happen at all, but stunned creatures cannot dodge. The first step would be to activate any tactical abilities, and whoever initiated this battle will be the one that gets to go first. Now, we will activate these abilities by simply putting meat tokens on the ability we would like to activate, remember? And all of these abilities are resolved immediately, but all of the damage is actually resolved simultaneously at the end of the combat. Now, each of these creatures will do damage in step 4. And we will inflict damage equal to their strength. And this is where we will put the damage tokens on our opponent to show that we have made damage to that creature. When the total damage is equal to or exceeds the creature's life, well, that creature is killed and put in the discard pile. In this game you have 4 different tactical abilities. You have brown, yellow, white and blue. The brown ones are fast action abilities that can be used in close combat. So these are pretty much the best ones to have while you are in combat. The yellow ones can only be used from the cover zone, and they cannot be used in the middle of combat. These are strategic actions that you use from the back. Now the white ones, they are assault tactical abilities that you can use from the hunting zone, and only from the hunting zone. The blue ones down here, they are automatic reactions, and they are the only abilities that can modify effects of the game. And you do not need to pay for these, because well, they are an automatic reaction to things that happens in the game. And this is the way the game goes on, back and forward between the different players, until we have a victorious, glorious winner. But how do you win, right? Well, if you manage to defeat all of your opponent's creatures and empty their main deck and their reinforcement deck, well then you win the game, because they can't do anything else. Or if you manage to completely destroy your opponent's habitat, meaning removing all of those 3 meat counters on their habitat, well then you would also win this quite awesome game. If you're into strategic, fast card games, I think that this one might just be for you. I mean, you go into the attack, you try to plan ahead with the tactical advancements that you have, try to stun their other creatures so you can move in and try to take out their habitat, remove their life tokens, play your different actions that you have on the hand. There's quite a lot for you to do. There's 4 different actions. They are quite unique. There is a lot for the different players to check out in this game. So if you're into card games, if you're into head-to-head battles, well, check this baby out. Plus, I really love the artwork of these cards. They are mean, they're badass, they're old school, but they're still cartoonish, and they still get you to feel like you are in this weird universe with rats and cats running around just trying to kill each other. There you have it, my friend. That was Cannibal World from Witty Games, a 2 to 4 players game, which is just quite cool, quite fast. It's an easy gameplay. It's easy to get into. There's no text on the cards themselves, so it's actually language independent, meaning that you could sit down with any friends and teach them this game in no time and have a really cool evening with a lot of gameplay, a lot of actions, a lot of going back and forward, trying to destroy habitat, trying to take out the creatures. This is a cool game. If you're into card games, check this one out. There will be links down in the description that will take you straight to this cool little box here. Just check it out, man. The artwork, gold. Well, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please throw in a comment. Please send the video to your grandma if you think she's gonna like it. But most importantly, my friend, please remember to keep on spreading that board gaming love I know you all have. Peace out.